Yes. Welcome to our Breakfast Club call. My name is Pamela Pacheco, and I have the absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege of being your host this morning. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are returning once again, welcome home. I remember when I first started entrepreneurship and I was looking forward to these type of morning calls. I was looking forward to them not only for the information I was going to receive, for the inspiration I was going to receive. We've all heard greatness in is greatness out. Garbage in is garbage out. So congrats and kudos to each and every single one of you for subscribing and tuning in to those things that are going to be of nourishment to your mind, your body, and your soul, especially your business, because your business has to do with every aspect of your life, and your life has to do with every aspect of your business. So we do our best on the Breakfast Club call to not only talk about business, but talk about life, cultivate that mindset, make sure we are championing each other along the journey. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Last week we spoke, type of one in the chat if you were on last week, we spoke about procrastination versus prosperity. We talked about how poverty kills time, prosperity executes time. And if you want to be a leader that prospers, you have to choose patterns over procrastination. And today, I think it would be equally as fitting and beneficial to talk about something that I think it's very important as we are talking about all things fourth quarter and advocating for championships to be won in fourth quarter, because championship games are won in fourth quarter. Type of one in the chat if you agree with that. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. Make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees. How many of you know that championship games are won in fourth quarter? How many of you are that person that's like, I still got some championship games to win before elevate, right? In my fourth quarter. Yes, type of one in the chat. I want to see who I'm talking to. Absolutely, absolutely. You got some wins. Yes, 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 yes. So let's get right into the meat and potatoes or what have you, right, of this. So when we talk about an abundant mindset, right, number one, we want to think enough. Number two, we want to practice gratitude. Number three, we want to exercise generosity. And we also want to cultivate an abundance mindset in both business and in life, because when we do that, developing a more positive and optimistic perspective, there's different steps that we can take to cultivate an abundance mindset. And we'll get into those 10 steps in a second. But when we're talking about having an abundance mindset, let's start off with thinking enough, right? What does that mean to have an abundance mindset? It says that you're thinking enough. And if you're taking notes, because note takers are history makers, write this down. Thinking enough. See, enough is too little for God to work. And a lot of times we think that, if I am not exactly where I want to be at in my business, if the results are not adding up, if my square bonus isn't where it wants to be at, if all of these things that I believe that define my success, if all of these things that I believe that are going to exemplify the level of success that I have or the level of accomplishment, it's like, if it's not adding up too fast, if I don't see the numbers, right, am I really doing enough? And the reality is that when all you do is enough, and enough is all you can do, just make sure that you're doing enough. One of my mentors used to always say that, is like, enough is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. But just make sure that you're doing all you can do. Make sure that you're always doing enough. And why is that? Because enough is not too little for God to work. And a lot of times you're thinking like, man, maybe you find yourself that you are working tons of hours. Maybe you are finding yourself that you are stretched thin between your family and your work-life balance, or your fortune life balance, and your secret business and your businesses. And you're just like, man, I am stretched too thin. But it's a beautiful reminder to say, hey, God can do so much with so little. And if you can just do a little bit, right? If you can just do a little bit, and that little bit is what's all you can do. As long as you're doing all you can do, God's always going to bless it. God's always going to bless it, because he does require us to have the faith of a mustard seed. But you can't have the faith of the mustard seed and don't put any work in, right? Because a lot of times we quit right before our breakthrough. We quit right before. Have you ever seen that meme that is like the person that's digging for gold and they quit drawing that axe back and forth right before they're going to strike gold? Type of one in the chat if you've seen that before. Right? Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. So the reason being is because that goes to show to us that that happens in so many different and dynamic and aspects of our life. So how do we say, hey, instead of that, I want to know that I'm enough? Because you have to rest in that place, in that safe and sacred space, that enough is not too little for God to work. Right. And it's interesting because we had a guest pastor at church last week, and this guest pastor was talking about, God has a better yes. And a lot of times we focus on the things that we don't have. We focus on the things that are no longer here. We focus on the things that God said no to, not trusting that he has a better yes. He has a better plan. So if you're the person that's like, man, I wish this could have happened like this. I wish this could have, took place in this way, in this shape or form. And it's like, I get it, but also understand that God has a better yes. And he's always, always, always going to work out everything in our favor, for our betterment, and never our detriment. So trusting in that and believing in that helps even more so cultivate an abundance mindset. If you guys are getting value from this, type of one in the chat. Let me know you guys are getting value from it. Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So number 2, practicing gratitude. My great friend and business partner, my brother from another, Mr. Terrion, says all the time, an attitude of gratitude is nothing without 2 words. Thank you, right? And yes, does that sound jolly and enlightening and amazing? Absolutely. Even when he says it, if you know Terrion, if you haven't, make sure you go meet him, right? He's going to be at Elevate. It's interesting because when you talk about, type it in the chat if you are always that person that's like, it's so easy for me to practice gratitude. Type it in the chat for me. Not too many of you are typing in the chat. Look at that. Like 1 or 2 of you. And you sent it to the panelists and attendees. No worries, no worries. So here's the reality, right? Even though we know that we should be practicing gratitude, the reality is that sometimes we will take for granted anything that you aren't grateful for. Have you experienced that before? Type of 1 in the chat if you're the person that's like, I've definitely experienced that, where I was not grateful for something and I took it for granted, or whatever the case may be. And it's yes, 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 absolutely. I'm definitely not the only one, right? Absolutely, 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 absolutely. And gratitude definitely helps us have more, do more, right? Love more, appreciate every aspect of our life. And when we think about and we rest in the fact that, man, God definitely does have a better yes, right? God definitely has some promises. And it's like the more that we persevere, the more that we say, hey, I'm going to hold on to this. Hey, I know what that vision looks like. I know what those promises are. It's inevitable for you to see that vision to come to fruition, but it started because you were grateful. It started because you had an attitude of gratitude. And the more thankful you are for what you have, the less room you have to complain about what you don't have, to complain about where you're not at. So it's practicing gratitude that allows us to have more of an abundant mindset in every aspect of our life, in our faith, in our fitness, in our family, in our fortune, in our fun, right? So practicing gratitude. Number 3, exercising generosity. You don't have to be rich to be generous. And yes, the goal, the dream, right, is definitely wealth, right? Generational wealth. However, a lot of times we think, and I'm super big into tithing, I can say so many stories of how I didn't know where I was going to make ends meet. My account was overdrawn. Like it was bad, right? Because we've all had like rough patches in entrepreneurship and just in life. And all of a sudden, I remember tithing at church that Sunday. And all of a sudden, the next few days, I had like multiple 6-figure checks. I didn't know where it came from. And I'm just like, I can only just remember my mom always, she was so big on tithing. She always taught us like, you better tithe, you better sow in to the kingdom of God. Like, and I'm not imposing my favorite belief upon you, but tithing is a big thing in my life. And it is one of the greatest ways to express gratitude, to also express trust, right? And knowing and being just a good steward of finances, and just being a good steward in everything and anything in life. And it's so important that you're exercising generosity, and you don't have to be rich to be generous. And what do I mean? Because you can just be generous with your gifts. You can be generous with your skill sets. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your knowledge. You could just be generous with a smile. You can just be generous with some kind words. You can just be generous by sending somebody a text message and saying, hey, I want you to get on this call with my mentor. It's just leadership and knowledge, and starting your morning off on the right foot, whether they're in this business or not. Because how many people are subscribing to greatness in the morning? How many people do you know that are really intentional about listening to something positive or motivational, right? And it's not just a podcast that they have no idea who's on the other side, that this is something that you can actually make a genuine connection with, and you're adding value. So exercising generosity can be on so many different levels. And when we talk about cultivating an abundance mindset in both business and life, right, developing a more positive and optimistic perspective is key. And when you think about, okay, well, how can I take this a step further? Like, what does this look like? Thinking enough, practicing gratitude, exercising generosity. How can we take that a step further in not only our business, but our life, is doing more things. So if you're still taking notes, type a 1 in the chat. Right? We're gonna add a little bit more of your notes. If you're getting some value, type a 1 in the chat. Awesome. Send it to somebody last minute, because they're going to get some value from this. So let's get into it. We already talked about practicing gratitude, right? Regularly expressing gratitude for what you have. This helps shift your focus away from the scarcity and towards the appreciation for the resources, the opportunities, and the relationships that you have in your life. Here's another thing. We said thinking enough, right? Because enough is not too little for God to work. We also said exercising generosity. You don't have to be rich to be generous. Here's another one that I want to add. Shift your language. Pay attention to the words that we utilize, replacing scarcity-focused words and phrases with those that emphasize abundance and opportunity. For example, replacing I can't with I can find a way, or how can I find a way? Instead of saying a negative I am statement, shifting it to starting to ask your brain and your mind, right, and your consciousness to say, how can I find a way? Instead of saying nobody answers the phone, say something, how can I find a way to get more people to engage with me in my business? Instead of saying things like nobody wants to join, say things of how can I invite and show people the value for them and their lifestyle? Instead of saying this is too hard, think of replacing it with words like, how can I learn something to make me better so that I can do better and develop this skill set even further to not only help grow my business, but to help grow other people. Shifting your language. If you could type a 1 in the chat, if that makes any sense, if you have ever had to do this, right? I'm gonna type a 1 in the chat myself, right? Because we all have to shift your language, shift your perspective, because here's the reality, right? Shifting your language helps immediately shift your perspective. Immediately. It's interesting, right? And I'm just being very, very transparent. It's very interesting because last night, Michelle Briscoe, shout out to Michelle, I love her. Her and I were on a call, and I was like, help me, right? I was like, help your sister. And she immediately said something that shifted my perspective, right? And even though I was joking in the moment, it's very, 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 very crucial that you keep the right people around you, because it only takes a moment for the enemy to deceive you and take a moment and turn it into an everlasting memory that is like, whoa, and it will shift your whole world upside down. So, and I'm, we keep it very honest and open and transparent on here, hot all the time. But I said something along the lines like, I was just getting frustrated. I had to go to Bible study, right? And even though it was a joke, she was like, girl, this is what we pray for. I said, amen. Amen. Right? Because, and granted, it's, even though I knew that I was joking, it was refreshing to be reminded to just be like, everything we say is to breathe life. Everything we say is to speak truth, is to further his kingdom. It's to grow our businesses, to grow our life. It's to help grow and nourish other people. So shifting your language can help entirely shift your world in a moment's time, just because you start being intentional, about paying attention to the words that you're utilizing. If imagine how much the world could drastically change if we are not only regularly expressing gratitude, but paying attention to those words that we're using and replacing those scarcity focused words and phrases with those that represent abundance, with those that signify opportunity. Does that make sense? So I challenge each and every single one of us on this call today to just say, hey, I'm going to use one word. I'm going to replace one word. That's type of 1 in the chat. One word. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Just replace one word that can shift it from scarcity to abundance. Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Number 3, visualizing success. Create a clear vision of your goals and your success. So what does that look like for you? Does that look like you're going to walk stage at Elevate? What are you wearing? What is the crowd saying? How are you feeling? Who's in the audience? Visualize your success. How are you feeling when you're walking stage? What are you wearing? What is the joy in the people's eyes? What does that look like of the people that are proud of you, of the people that are cheering you on and championing you from stage? Create a clear vision of your goals and your success, but also create a clear vision of what that plan looks like. What does that plan look like for you? Why is that? Because that's going to allow you and us to visualize our achievements, to help rewire your brain to focus on abundance rather than scarcity. Because now when you're visualizing success, and when you take time, and it's like a lot of people, are very big into manifestation. I'm super huge into that. But I believe that prayer without work is dead, right? But I also know that visualization has so much to do. Like, can you feel it? What does it look like? What does it taste like? What are you wearing? Like, from the beginning to the end, when you visualize, it's inevitable. And here's why, because now your brain, it's starting to rewire. So now your brain is focusing on the abundance rather than the scarcity. Now your brain is focusing on the how to, the how can I, rather than the I can't, or this is impossible. Because you have visualized the success, now when your brain sees the word impossible, it's saying I'm possible, right? You guys have, if you've heard me say that in a press before, right? Like, there's two types of people that look at this. One says that's impossible. One says I'm possible. Whatever the mind can believe and conceive, it will achieve. But are you visualizing that success? Take time today to visualize that success. Take time today to visualize that success. What does that look like for you come Elevate? What does that look like for you come Black Friday? What does it look like for you 6 months from now? What does it look like for you 2 months from now at the next RTE in December? What does that success look like to you? Visualize it. You want to take this a step further. Visualize what your family looks like. Visualize the dynamic in your household. Visualize your faith. What does that look like? What does your ideal look like? What does that ideology look like for your family? What does that look like for your fitness? What does that look like for your fortune? What does that look like for your fun? Create a clear vision of your goals and your success, because when we start visualizing our achievements, it's going to certainly help rewire our brain to focus on the abundance, to focus on the possibilities of achieving that, and therefore getting us closer to making sure that we get it done. Now, moving on. Next one, learning from failure. Instead of dwelling on failure, view it as a valuable learning experience. Mistakes and setbacks are opportunities for growth and improvement. This is powerful as well. Why? Because when we're talking about having this mindset, and we're talking about these things, and we're talking about, Pam, I definitely understand thinking enough and practicing gratitude and exercising generosity and shifting our language and visualizing success. Well, learning from failure, type a 1 in the chat if you've ever thought you failed at something and it made you better. Type a 1 in the chat if you've ever failed at something and it taught you something. Make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Type a 1 in the chat if you've made a mistake and it actually made you money instead of costing you money. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Right, right. The reality is that the wisest people in the world learn from their mistakes. The wisest people in the world, in fact, learn from other people's mistakes. But neither here nor there. The point is that when we are intentional about growing, when we are intentional about moving onward and upward and forward, we understand that everything comes to promote us, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's ugly, whether it's sad, whether it's happy. It doesn't matter what it is. If we are committed to constant and never ending improvement, to growing, to bettering ourselves, to bettering the world around us, right? All of these things, and they're absolutely great. It's also saying, okay, well, how can I learn from these things? Because when we start immediately shifting our mindset and shifting the words and shifting the language and visualizing, we also have to put ourselves that in a space of we're learning. We're learning from the failure. Instead of dwelling on it, view it as a learning experience. Because how many of us, type a 1 in the chat, because I know I'm not the only one, right? I'm going to type a 1 in the chat myself. How many of us have made a mistake and have dwelled on it and have beaten ourselves up about it? And, you find yourself in a space that you're just like, dang, I can't change that, right? I can't go back. Maybe it was something that you said, maybe it was something that you did. And you're like, you find yourself in a space where you're like, man, I wish I could change that mistake, or I wish I could change what I said, or how I made somebody feel, or even what we did, right? Because we're all guilty of falling short in some way, shape, or form. But I think it's so important that when we're dwelling on the mistakes and dwelling on the failures and dwelling on these experiences that have not necessarily been the most enjoyable, it's important to give ourselves grace and say, hey, you know what? It's okay. I'm moving onward and upward and forward. Hey, it's okay. I wasn't my best self at that point. I wasn't my best self in that moment. Man, I definitely taking ownership, right, of your actions. I said probably something that wasn't the best, or I thought of something like this, or I did something that wasn't. But give yourself grace. We have to give ourselves grace, because when we think of grace, and maybe you're the person that's like, well, I don't know necessarily what that means, right? But you hear you, and again, not to impose my favorite belief upon you, but I heard grace is God's righteousness at Christ's expense, right? So we want that grace every single time, but it's like, are we giving it to others, and are we giving it to ourselves? Because grace is really just God's unconditional love for everyone, whether or not they have behaved as he wants us to, right? But it's saying that as he has grace for us, yes, have grace for other people, but also make sure you're giving yourself grace. Make sure you are giving yourself room to say, hey, I can learn from this. And I also understand that that mistake, that setback does not define me. A moment does not make me. A moment does not break me, right? And those mistakes, those setbacks, those failures are all opportunity for growth, are all opportunity for improvement in each and every single aspect of our life. That makes sense, or you got some value from that? Type a 1 in the chat. I love it. I love it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees. Happy to always add value to you guys. So moving right along. So we said cultivating an abundance mindset, right? Thinking enough, practicing gratitude. If you're just joining us, exercising generosity, shifting our language, visualizing success, learning from failures. Surround yourself with positive influences. This is a big one, right? Surround yourself with positive influences. Associate with people who have an abundance mindset. Their positivity can be contagious and reinforce your own outlook. How many of us have been around somebody that's happy and we're happy? Type a 1 in the chat if that's happened to you. You're around somebody that got joy, and that joy is contagious. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, make sure you send it to all panelists. Yes, yes, of course, of course, of course. That joy is contagious. Have you ever been around somebody that's in a bad mood and that's also contagious? Energy. Ooh, I used to always make this a joke. I would say, you ever been around somebody that their energy is so trash that they walk by and they kill the dead plants? And my friend's like, Pam, they're fake plants. They're already dead. I know. That's how trash their energy was. We're not trash, trash, okay? But just as on the flip side of the coin, if you know, you know, you'll be around some people that their energy is so colossal, right? It is so magnetic. It is so impactful. It is so influential that they walk into a room and they light up a room. Their energy is so contagious. Like, they'll walk by you and you already are smiling just because that person just infected you with the joy of the spirit. Their energy is just wow, right? So when you think of that, it's so important to be like, am I that person? I always like taking this to another level, right? And saying, hey, I want to surround myself with those positive influences. How can I be more of that positive influence for other people to be wanted to be surrounded by me too. Because let's be real, if we want to associate with people who have an abundance mindset, and we can pretty much, because iron sharpens iron, right? And energy breeds energy, and where attention flows, energy goes, right? So when you think of that, is like, am I being that person whose positivity is also contagious? Am I also being that person who I'm reinforcing my own outlook just on surrounding myself with positive influences and being that positive influence for somebody else? And I'm going to tell you, it's not to say that you're always going to be the positive influence for everybody in every aspect. If you've heard Muzaffar talk, you know where that was from. If you haven't, make sure you're at Elevate so you can know why all of us just laughed when I said everybody, right? So surrounding yourself, understanding that everybody has some type of value that they can bring to your life. Everybody matters, that all of these things are true. However, it is definitely a big a must, right? It's a non-negotiable for when we are seeking to be around those positive influences. You're also being that positive influence, and you're also understanding that the only way for you to get better at that is by surrounding yourself with positive influences, by cultivating an abundance mindset, by doing the little things each and every single day to get you to where you want to be, to allow you to continue to become the best version of yourself. So moving on along, next one, setting realistic goals. Setting realistic goals. So when we think about we talk about here all the time, SMART goals, making sure your goals are specific, that they're measurable, that they are attainable, right? Realistic, and that you set a time frame on there. Now, when we think about realistic goals, see, I am very, very careful of how I throw that word or utilize that word. So I always, whenever I talk about it, I gotta explain it, because this might be the first time you're tuning in and you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, she said realistic. Like, we don't use that word in abundance. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Right, wait a minute. So breaking down your goals into manageable steps, right? That's what I mean by that. So for example, your goal is to reach 25-25. And there's some people on this call that's the goal by Elevate, right? Now, how can you break that down into manageable steps? I was just speaking about this to one of our rock stars that is working towards that goal before Elevate. I said our follow-up game gotta be crazy right now. So what does that look like in a manageable step? Hey, let's make a list of everybody that you've shown since you got started. So you've been around for about 7, 8 months. So let's go back at your calendar. Let's go back on your text thread. Let's go back on your calls. Let's go back to everybody we've shown and write them down. That is the first manageable step, right? Writing down everybody you've showed. Then another manageable step is to now we're going to write a list. And I hope that this can bless somebody, because I know that we're not the only ones that got goals by Elevate, and we are crunch time right now. We got 7 days. Okay. And one of the reasons I also decided to do this call, and I'm going to be working through my birthday weekend, is because our team has been working so hard that I'm here. Like, I'm all into making sure like we are all at our goals by Elevate. So that's why I did not cancel today's call. But anyway, so I digress. Going back to what we were saying, manageable steps. So you got fortune is in the follow-up. Absolutely, Michelle. Right? So going back, you're going to write down the list of everybody you've shown, everybody you've called, everybody you've sent a video to, everybody you've shared the secret news with, right? How do you take that step further into a manageable step? You're also going to have a follow-up list. You're going to go into your back office, right, and your reports, and you're going to look at every single customer. Write them all down. How does that look like? Every customer, if they're in your organization, when you click on their binary, you'll get a phone number in case somebody else signed them up. Now, the fortune is in the follow-up, because we're going to follow up with each and every single person who's ever bought something or you've shown something. And if they haven't bought something, we're going to say, hey, can you buy something for at least $100? If they can't buy something for $100, we're going to try to get them in for $200. Let's be real, right? At least so that they can get a free trip. If they can't do the $200, we're going to go down to the $150. If you can't do the $150, that we're going to go down to the $100. And if you can't do the $100, we're at least going to say, hey, get a $50 membership or get $50 in products because you support me getting closer to my goal, right? Those are manageable. That's how you break down a goal into a manageable step. It's about achieving the smaller milestones, because this by default is going to help us see progress and maintain a positive mindset. Because again, whatever the mind can believe and conceive, it will achieve. So how else do you do a manageable step in that? It's saying, okay, I got all of these lists of people. Now I got to tackle this list. I can't do it all at a time. I'm going to do 10 before 10 a.m. I'm going to do another 10 before 2. I'm going to do another 10 before 10. I'm going to have my mentor follow up with me on these, on that. Hey, I need some help here. How else can you break down a manageable goal and a goal into a manageable step? Now another list, fortune is in the follow-up. It's not only on the people you've showed. It's not only on the people who have bought. Fortune is even more so in the follow-up with the people within your organization. Let's call every single body that is in your binary. Let's call all of them. All of them. Hey, I want to get you your easy one. Can I help you get one? I just want to help you get your first customer. Having conversations again with people. How serious are you about this? Like, do you see that it can be a vehicle for freedom? Do you see that this can be a vehicle for joy? Do you see that this can be a vehicle for lifestyle? Do you see that this can help you get your health reset? Do you see that this can help you get your coins up? Let me tell you something. People are living quiet lives of desperation. Quiet lives of desperation right now, and they just do not understand what they have their hands on or what they even can have access to, because you are sharing with them a lifetime opportunity that has to be seized within the opportunity of his lifetime. Because the reality is, still to this day, you could ask this question in America, like you could ask it in Asia, like you could ask it in South America, Africa, Canada, you name it. The number one demand in the world, type it in the chat if you know the answer, as I say it, is the demand to make more money. That's the number one demand in the world. Number one demand in the world is the demand to make more money. The number one human need is significance. It's significance, it's certainty, right? It's people need to feel that they are certain, that they're significant, that they're contributing, and all of these things matter because they enable that motivation. They enable you to either thrive or to self-sabotage. And the reality is that when you follow up with people and you are intentional about getting your goals and visualizing and achieving everything you set your mind to, people feel that energy. It's contagious. It is contagious, contagious, contagious. And it brings me up to our next point, is stay informed and innovate. Stay informed and innovate. Keep yourself updated on what's working. Keep yourself updated on the trends, on the innovations. Keep yourself around the fire. Stay around the fire. Every day we're doing a blitz at 8 p.m. Eastern. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about innovation? Guys, last night we had Michelle Taylor. Tonight, I'm up, okay? Every night, we have somebody that is going to work for you. You know how you can maximize on that? See, this is what your 3-step setup looks like in case that you're inviting people on that. You want to talk about innovation? You got something innovative because we are the ultimate travel and lifestyle membership. Like when I sit down with somebody and I'm like, listen, you want to talk about innovation? You got a 20-year billion-dollar infrastructure because we dominated in the personal care space. We dominated in the Dead Sea mineral industry. We dominated in the personal care world. Became billion-dollar company with just one line, one industry. What you think we about to do now that we got everything? That we got travel and we got nutrition? Baby, we about to participate in our own rescue. The best is yet to come. But I have a certainty because I see what I have my hands on. And I've been in this industry since the age of 15. And there is nothing like what we have our hands on. When you talk about future, when you talk about community, when you talk about ownership, when you talk about co-creation, when you talk about that, I could have everybody that's on this call say, hey, we're all going to a Shabbat dinner at Mr. Ben Shabbat's house. I don't care what you do, who you do it with. Tell me when's the last time you got to go sit down with your CEO and his family who's going to cook dinner for you. You want to talk about innovation? You want to talk about access? Ain't nothing like what we got, period. Sorry, I got a little, but it is what it is, Yes. We got the deal. We got the access that everybody's looking for. So when we're talking and we're inviting people and we have a certain posture, and this is why I'm like, I've been getting people on these calls because, to be honest with y'all, I'm back to back to back to back to back. So I also understand that with my own people, I cannot be the relationship and the expert. So what do? I edify the speaker. Like last night, I was edifying Michelle Taylor. I said, yo, my girl, listen, we call her Black Mamba because she got that Mamba mentality, but she's a 7-figure earner. She's an international speaker, originally from White Plains, New York, was in social work, just a boss, one of my best friends. I love to have fun with this girl, but she gets busy. I said, and let me tell you something, and I did my 3-step setup, and your 3-step setup is your why. Let them know your why. Let them know you're all in. Right? And let them know with or without them, you're going to do this. So I said, listen, this is somebody that obviously knows that I've been in business for 10 plus years. I said, look, what this is going to be bigger than what I've ever done in my life. And I said, and the family, I'm all in with the family. I'm all in with everything. Like, we're going to take this thing to the moon. And when I tell you that this is going to happen with or without me, trust, it will happen with or without me. And if it has to happen with or without you, that will be unfortunate. That's not what I want, but I understand. I just got to share it with you. So God forbid, in the future, when I blow this thing up, you can't come back to me and tell me Pam didn't show me. Because what I'm about to share with you, you've never seen anything like it. That's the posture. That's when you know you have your hands on innovation. Then, now I edified Mamba. Now, all you're doing is watching the video. Watching the presentation, and I'm on the presentation, and as soon as you're done, I'm calling you. But I already also called one of my leaders to do a 3-way call and be like, hey, right? And I actually called Roscoe. I was like, hey, Sco, I just finished having somebody on the video with your wife really quick. I'm going to add her to the call really quick. Okay, cool. But I texted 7 people before I got a confirmation about who was available for a 3-way call, right? Because not everybody is going to be available at the same time. And I get it. We're all in build mode. So I texted 7 people. Roscoe's like, I got you. Cool. I called them, let him know a little bit about my prospect. So now I call my girl like, girl, amazing. Wasn't it? Psh, girl, listen, the girl that you just spoke to, I got her husband on the line. Right. And he's a 7-figure earner, international speaker, was dealing with battered, was a health counselor for women and children. But just hear his story really, really quick, because I want you to relate to somebody that I know you're going to be able to relate to. Bam, introduced them. Roscoe did his thing. The girl's like, Pam, I'm definitely going to get started. I can't do the business right now because I have this going on, blah, blah, but I'm definitely going to get a membership. Cool. I did my part. I did my job. See, a lot of times is like when you talk about setting these goals and having an abundance mindset, you gotta be courageous. You gotta be bold. Fortune always favors the bold. And when you stay updated on what's going on in the industry, when you stay updated on the innovations, is like, it's taking advantage of this opportunity in its entirety, because we have something for everyone to help each and every single one of us get to the next level of life, to get to the next level in our business, to get to the next level in our influence, to get to the next level in our purpose. So next one, focus on solutions. When faced with challenges, concentrate on finding solutions rather than dwelling on the problems. This proactive approach can help you overcome more obstacles, right? Focusing on solutions. This helps us captivate an abundance mindset in every aspect of our life. You want to talk about focusing on the solutions, because what you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. What you focus on will expand. So whenever you're faced with any challenge, whenever you're faced with anything that's not necessarily to your liking, or something that you're like, this is not favorable for me at the moment, this is not necessarily what I would like, what I would want, ask yourself, am I focused on the challenge? Am I focused on the setback? Am I focused on the things that I cannot change? Or am I focused on the solution? Am I focused on finding the solution rather than dwelling on the things that I cannot change of the problem, right? Because the reality is that if you know what you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. If you know where attention goes, energy flows. If you know what you focus on expands, why would you focus on things that do not serve you? Why would you focus on things that rob you of our joy? Because it's what we're used to. But it takes those 21 days to form new habits, right? So it's us doing the little things. So I challenge each and every single one of us when we're talking about, cultivating this mindset. It's an ongoing process that requires conscious efforts and self-awareness. So over time, if we do these little things, it significantly can impact our personal and professional life in each and every single way. So as we're doing these things, and if you face yourself with some challenge, I just encourage you, right, to focus on the solution, to remember this conversation, to remember this call. And last but certainly not least, mindfulness and meditation. These practices can help you stay present and reduce anxiety about the future, allowing you to focus on the abundance of the current moment. However you connect with your creator, right? And I would put prayer and meditation, mindfulness and meditation, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you. Mine is prayer, mindfulness, and meditation, right? I understand the things that help me stay centered, help me reduce anxiety. It's just being grateful. I do my gratitude journaling. I do my Bible journaling. I read my Bible. I spend time being still. I spend time with my creator because I just need to have my steps ordered. But more than anything, I just need a peace in my soul, a peace in my mind that allows me to focus on the abundance, that allows me to focus on what is to come. And as we wrap this up, right, it's more so than anything for us to realize that there's no reason at all to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. What do I mean by that? There's no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. So just being more grateful, just being more grateful for the abundance that exists around us, just being more grateful for this very moment, just being more grateful for everything that we have in front of us. Because when you talk about successful leaders, when you talk about world changers and innovators and the movers and the shakers, we learn to steward what we have in front of us. Abundance doesn't come from more things, but rather from renewed thinking. What you have been overlooking, what ask yourself this, right? Because this is something that I had to ask myself. And I encourage each and every single one of us to do this. What have you been overlooking that is actually a resource? We have the right people, the right opportunities, even the right obstacles, if we're really being honest. But when you begin to see what you have as enough, you will move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And I encourage each and every single person watching this, whether you're watching it today, whether you're watching the replay, that we are all called to live an abundance life. We are all called to live the life of our dreams. It is our inheritance. It is our birthright. Prosperity is our inheritance. It is our birthright. You have greatness within you. Take time to focus on not only the goals that you have for your business, but the goals that you have for your family, the goals that you have for your life. And in this fourth quarter, understand that anything that you put your mind to, you can do. Anything that you set out to do, you can do. You're not doing this by yourself, but you have everything and anything that you need inside of you to conquer, to make your goals a reality. Because the truth of the matter is this: where he has authorized your victory in your personal domain, nothing and no one can ever come against. And the more he enlarges your territory, the more he is going to enlarge in your capacity. Breakfast has been served. I hope we go into this fourth quarter and continue to dominate, continue to tap into the greatness, continue to use each and every obstacle for opportunity, continue to know that that pain, you have the choice to choose joy, to choose purpose, and to choose your power each and every single day. And the best is truly yet to come. Breakfast has been served. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Blessings on blessings. And I will see you guys next week at Elevate. Be safe, guys.